Happy Friday, everyone. The end of the week is here, and we are going to end it off with a little bit of rotation work with some cardio stuff thrown in there today. So we're going to have some fun today. I'm going to give you a few different options for some different stuff, and we're going to see where it takes us. So, to get us there, we have 2 rounds. Dynamic triangle, 3 to 5 aside, overhead sumo good morning, and a sumo squat. So really just wake up those hips and get that body moving around a little bit. From there, we're going to start moving into our legs. We're going to start focusing on some front scale raises for some balance purposes. We got 5 aside and a 3-second eccentric, so we're going to have a little bit of control on that lower of that front scale. Then we're going to move into a side scale for 3 aside and a single leg RDL for 5 aside and a 3-second eccentric as well. We're going to hit that for 2 rounds, working on waking up those legs a little bit more, working on some stability, balance work. It's always a fun time working on the balance, so take your time and have some fun with this one. After that, we're going to work a little bit more on the upper body just to get things primed up and ready to go. Plank to down dog for 3 to 5. Windmill for 6 to 10, alternating, or you can do 3 to 5 per side. And then we're going to move into our dumbbell standing march just to kind of, again, fire up those legs a little bit, get those quads fired up and ready for action. 3 rounds of that work set, and if you'd like to add in a little bit of half Turkish get-up practice into that bottom piece in those 3 rounds, please do so, just to work on that rotation work, and I'm going to show you a nice little progression you can play with to get you guys fired up for that. Moving into our work set, we have 5 rounds. 5 rounds. We have 90-second wall run, or a bunch of stuff in the bottom of the workout description. So depending on what you want to take down, I'm going to have some different options for you for that wall run. There are going to be some cardio options, so we'll have some fun with that. We'll go through some of them here on the video, but some of the other ones you'll know what they are. They're pretty straightforward, but there'll be lots of options. So choose your cardio experience for today, and we'll see where it takes us. Afterwards, we're going to take down half Turkish get-up for 5 aside. You can do this loaded or unloaded. We're going to work on just some rotation work under some fatigue and duress. So it's going to be a little bit of time to work on that little Bernie legs sensation, plus, all right, working on stabilizing while we're breathing heavy. So it's going to be a little tougher in that regard, so please focus on that and see where it takes you today. But let's get you warmed up and ready for action. All right, let's warm up a little bit. Let's get those feet under the hips. We'll take the arms up big and tall, big stretch. We're going to shrug, pull those shoulders down and reach to the side. Oh, come back through to the other side. Yeah, good. Forward fold. We're going to touch those toes. We're going to walk up those shins, nice flat back, and then come all the way down, framing the foot. We're going to step it back into this lizard, and what we're going to do is we're just going to touch that knee down, and then we're going to straighten out the back leg and then pull into our split. And then come back through, touch that knee down, press that heel back, pull into our split. One more time, knee, straighten, pull into our split. Planting the hands, we're going to step back into our down dog, reaching those hips high, setting those shoulders, and just walking our feet back and forth nice and dynamically. We're going to be using those feet today, those ankles, so we just want to make sure they're getting warm, nice and slow. Just prime up those calves, those ankles a bit. Coming back into our plank and lizard, we're going to square up that position. We're going to lower the back knee down, straighten, and then straighten that front leg. Plant the foot, lower the knee, straighten, and straighten. Plant the foot, lower the knee, straighten, and straighten. We'll plant that foot and step it back into our down dog. Reaching those hips high, setting those shoulders, and again, just walking out those heels. Nice and steady. Just making sure things feel pretty good. Waking them up really well. Just seeing where those feet take us. From here, we're going to come back into our plank. Tiptoe those feet up. We're going to roll ourselves all the way up. Big stretch. Big reach. Oh, big reach. Yeah. Bring those hands down. Let's get you fired up. Let's start with that first piece of the warm-up. But if you'd like to take down some more gentle warm-up, maybe some calf raises, maybe some more lower body rotation work with that lizard, please do so. Pause the video, take that down, and then come join me for our first phase of warm-up. All right, for our first phase of warm-up for today, we're going to get set up in our sumo stance. So I'm going to turn a toe, and I'm going to turn a toe, getting in that nice open hip position. So my hips are open on an angle. I'm going to bring my hand to my thigh. I'm going to reach way up to the sky. set my glute, and I'm gonna pull my hip into that heel. So I'm gonna slowly trace down my shin, taking as deep as I feel comfortable, and then slowly come back up, keeping this arm up towards the ceiling and stable. So we're pulling that hip back, that starts the body tipping down, and then we just sort of continue down the side as we work through that engagement. So the more we kind of squeeze our glutes and set our hips, and then we pull, you're gonna feel a little bit more pull through this side body. And that's okay, because we're stabilizing through here, and we're not getting this kind of big tip of the hip. We're setting, and then everything is moving together. So it's okay if you feel that pull through the side. Just ease into it, and make sure you're only going to your edge. From there, we're gonna move into our overhead sumo good morning. So our stance is gonna stay the same. I'm gonna turn profile so you guys can see. What I like to do sometimes in classes too is start off with a couple sumo good mornings, just so you can groove that position. So we squeeze and set, we pull the hips back, keeping the big toes down, just to groove that hinge. And then if we do one or two like so, then we can add in the arms overhead, setting your glutes, setting your shoulders, pulling the hips back as we maintain that good hinge, but add in that overhead position. So if you want to mix and match those two things, priming up the hinge first, and then adding in the shoulder piece, please do so. Because as soon as we add in that overhead piece, it gets a little harder in that hinge in terms of range and kind of order of operations in the body. So move yourself slowly through and see where it takes you. Finally, last but not least, we have our sumo squat. So everything in this first phase is in our sumo position. So the big thing with this sumo squat is we're trying to push those knees out just a tad more than we normally would in our air squat with our regular stance, because the feet are wider, so the knees are going to want to collapse in as we squat down. So as I take my hips to my heels, I'm just going to pull those knees apart a little bit more than I normally would, and that's going to help keep those knees out, but I'm still keeping my toes down and my heels flat on that floor. My weight is through my midfoot where my laces stay, but what we want to keep in mind is that those knees are out, tracking those toes just a little bit more than normal. So from profile, focusing on that tall torso, hips go towards the heels, the knees track the toes, my feet are flat, and I'm really working on staying through that mid-foot balance. It's going to be a nice little work set to kind of get those hips and legs kind of fired up and ready for action today. So take your time with those 2 rounds. Remember, ease into that overhead good morning if you like, and if you want to hold on to a towel or an elastic band, if you have one of those resistance bands at home, it can just help keep those shoulders in place. Quick recap, we have a dynamic triangle for 3 to 5 per side, overhead sumo good morning for 5, sumo squat for 3 at a 5-3-5 tempo. So slowing it down a little bit, 5 seconds down, 3-second pause, 5 seconds stand. So really take that time to play. 2 rounds, pause the video, rock it, come back and join me. We're going to focus on a little bit more lower body to get those quads and those hips warmed up some more. Continuing on with our lower body, we're going to work on some balance work with a little bit of eccentric work. So we're going to work on some scales, front scale and our side scale. But our first scale raise is going to be our front scale. So I'm going to set myself up profile so you guys can see what I'm talking about. I'm going to squeeze my glutes. I'm going to settle in with my weight over my balancing leg. From here, I'm going to lift through my quad and hip to lift the leg up, and I'm going to control the down, 3, 2, 1. So I'm working on a little bit of eccentric work and control. So I'm not just lifting and then letting that leg fall. I'm controlling the down, 3 seconds to the floor to work on a little bit more stability. Now, very important, I'm going to switch sides so you can see this per se on the front leg. I want you to make sure you're squeezing your glutes and keeping this balancing leg strong, so when I lift, it doesn't buckle. We want to make sure that that balancing leg stays straight and strong. So pay attention to the height of your leg coming up, and pay attention to that balancing leg, because sometimes if we're not engaged, that knee's going to buckle. Sometimes if we try and go too high, the body says, I can't go any higher without giving. So it buckles that knee to give us the perception that we're going higher. So again, just as we want to think about this, setting up that position, we lift the leg, 3, 2, 1, good eccentric. I'm going to hit that for 5 per side. From there, we're going to move into our side scale. There's no eccentric on this one, but we still want to focus on our good balance. So I set myself up, leg, heel, my straight line of action from my foot to my shoulder. We want to make sure we try and stay as tall as we can. I point that toe, so my tops of my foot are pointing towards the camera, and my hands can go where they need to be. I'm going to lift that leg and then control down a little bit. So I'm not trying to do a lower at a certain tempo, but I'm also not trying to let that leg just fall down. You'll notice as well, keeping that straight line of action, shoulder, hip, and foot. We're not tipping with our body to try and get the leg high. We're just focusing on the height that I can get, engaging through the hip and the glute. So we got 3 per side there, and then we're gonna work on the back half of our leg with our single leg RDL. So I'm gonna get myself set up, and we're gonna keep our toe down for this because I want you guys just to focus on the hamstring engagement. So we're gonna squeeze the glutes, set the ribs. We're gonna pretend like I'm holding a dumbbell to the front. I'm gonna pull the hips back, keeping my weight through my midfoot, taking my hands down to my knee, and then squeeze and push through that leg to stand. I pull back, finding that good hinge, stand tall. Really making sure that I move from hip crease to crown of head. Everything moves as one, and that's gonna create a nice hinge for my body position and really find that glute and hamstring. Quick little recap, we have our front scale raise for 5 per side at a 3-second lower each rep. Side scale for 3 a side, and then single leg RDL for 5 a side at 3-second eccentric, so 3 seconds down for 2 rounds. Those single leg RDLs also are not loaded, so keep that in mind. We're just doing empty weight, body weight kind of stuff, just to prime up the legs a little bit to get things fired up. So pause the video, take that down. We're gonna start warming up a little bit more with the upper body, get things fired up, see where it takes us. All right, our next phase of work, kind of moving into more dynamic stuff, we're gonna work on a plank to down dog. So we're gonna work on just warming up our shoulders a bit. So I'm gonna settle into my plank first. My ribs are gonna pull in, my shoulders are gonna press to the sky, and I'm gonna focus on that shoulder position. I'm gonna pull my hips back, focusing on engaging through my shoulders and my lats, making sure those armpits point towards my toes. I'm nice and long through the spine, so I'm gonna soften my knees and ankles to allow that hip angle, and then I'm gonna come back into that plank. Now if you'd like to, we are doing some running and some impact work today, so if you'd like to add in a little heel press, 1 per side, and then come back into that plank, you're more than welcome to, just to add in a little extra ankle work in there to get yourself prepped and ready. So now what we have for you guys coming up in terms of our next phase is a little bit of windmill action. So we're gonna stand tall, getting our feet into our nice sumo stance. We're gonna take an arm up to the sky, hand down towards the floor, squeeze the glutes. We're gonna pull back and rotate, working on opening up that upper body a little bit, waking up those hips some more, and just working on that nice smooth windmill like we did yesterday, just to really focus on that overhead and that rotation through the upper body. In this windmill, we want to make sure that we are keeping our focus on our shoulder position and keeping that arm isolated as a piece of our torso. So as I pull back and rotate, I rotate up my low rib, and that's what turns my arm to face the other direction. We're not letting the arm rotate on its own. We want to make sure we isolate the arm, make it a part of our torso, and allow everything to move together. So if you feel that arm starting to rotate on its own, just stop your range of motion, come back up, reset the shoulder, and move back in to that range that is challenged, but you can maintain good position with. After we've done 6 to 10 total count, or 3 to 5 per side, we're going to move into our dumbbell standing march to kind of finalize our last chance to get those hips fired up before we get a little bit more dynamic. So with these elbows up nice and strong, holding that dumbbell, we're going to work on shifting back and forth, waking up those legs, waking up those hips into that standing march. So like our front scale, we want to make sure that that balancing leg remains straight and we're not buckling as we do our march. So we want to make sure we're strong and tall, balance is good, we're only lifting that knee straight up as high as we can maintain a strong balancing leg. For the dumbbell, you can hold it, goblet, Zercher, front rack, suitcase, wherever you'd like. You can even hold it overhead if you'd like to warm up that overhead position a little bit more. It's up to you. It's just a warm-up set just to get things fired up, ready for action. So take the time, play with that. You're gonna take that down for 20 seconds, which is steady state movement. And if you wanna bounce the dumbbell around different places each round, please do so. As a quick little recap for that little triplet, we have a plank to down dog for 3 to 5 reps, 6 to 10 windmill, dumbbell standing march for 20 seconds, 3 rounds taking that down, and then we're gonna move into a little practice round that's gonna help kind of build and get things ready to go with a couple of the movements we got going on. So pause the video, take down this last little piece to get ourselves fired up before we start getting kind of more dynamic. We're gonna get you guys ready to go. All right, so we're gonna work on a little practice round, kind of get the body kind of heated up a little bit. We're gonna give you a couple different options for some exercises that you can play with. So the first exercise we're gonna play with is just to get those ankles ready to go. We can work on 2 things. We're gonna work on it's actually 3 things. We're gonna work on that little ankle pop, just working on popping with those feet, working on waking up the ankles, the knees, keeping the glutes engaged, and the core tight. So we're just working on that skipping without the skip. So just waking up those feet, getting a little dynamic, getting the heart rate up a little bit. From there, we can also work on our in-out hop. So we have our feet separated about a squat stance or just outside, and then from there you set your clock up, and we in-out hop. So we're gonna take our feet in and out, working on that nice quick feet position, back and forth. Again, working on that nice positioning to get that heart rate going, those ankles fired up, and then we'll have some fun with that. Now, our next one's a little different. It's a little weird, but if you have something at home you can just put down as a little line, a little tape line, have a little, kind of similar to a 10-pound plate, something along those lines that you can touch your foot to, or just have a little spot on the floor that you're touching. It's a little bit of switch up, our feet little switch. So a toe touch. So one foot's gonna be on the spot. We're gonna get ourselves set up. I want you guys to try and keep your body over that center mass, and you're just gonna switch your feet back and forth, nice and steady, working back and forth, nice quick feet, get those hands involved and see what happens, all right? So we wanna think of that as nice, fast, kind of alternating with the hands, working on bringing both worlds together. It can be a little confusing, but we wanna think about opposite hand, foot. All right, so whatever foot's in front, the hand is opposite. So we're working on that good pace, back and forth, switching those feet back and forth, nice and quick, working on our positioning, our footwork. Now, one of those 3 things is gonna kind of get you kind of squared away into your work set, and we're gonna have some fun with that as we move forward into our wall run. So we can work on that to get ourselves primed and ready, and then once we do about 20 to 30 seconds of that exercise, we are gonna move into our half Turkish get-up practice. Now with this half Turkish get-up practice, we're gonna start with no load. So we're gonna start off in that kneeling hip position, nice and solid, lead leg, knees over the heel, back knee under hip, under shoulder, pressing that arm up to the sky, setting that position, and then we take ourselves down to the side, so we're in that nice stacked position, hand over shoulder, shoulder over shoulder, and then shoulder over hand. And we come back up, reset, and we take that down nice and slow, holding in each position, just to groove the pattern of the movement. We're gonna do about 3 reps per side, switching our feet out, and working on the other side without any load, just to work the movement pattern, get the body used to that rotation, and then flow into a next round for our practice round. So in that practice round again, you can kind of switch back to whichever one of those variations you'd like to play with. So working on that forward and back toe touch, the in-out hops, the ankle pops. Again, I'll have that kind of example on the bottom for you guys, and then hit another set of that empty-handed half Turkish get-up, building into your working weight to get you primed and ready to go. So take your time, work on that practice round. There'll be some different variations on the workout description for you to get yourself fired up, heart rate ready to go, and then take on the workout. So come along, join me, work through that practice round, and then join me against the wall. We're gonna talk about the wall run. All right, so we've gone through the practice round a little bit. Maybe we're adding this into our practice round for like one or two sets just to get used to our wall run. what we're gonna do, we're gonna get ourselves set up against the wall. So I'm kind of doing a wall plank. So I'm pushing into the wall with the arms, so I'm using it as a stabilizer. My upper back is engaged, just as if I was running, keeping a good posture, running outside, working on that nice tall body. So now, I get my position, I'm set up in this position against the wall. I'm just gonna show you a stepping variation. So I pull my heel up under my glutes. So I'm up under my glute, my knee is slightly forward, and if you look at it, it kind of looks like a 4. So I'm making kind of a figure 4. Then I put it down, I pick the other foot up, keeping that foot relaxed. I'm still pressing into the wall and working on that just posture position. From there, I'm gonna start running, pressing into the wall, working on that nice kind of work set as I push, 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 working on that heel coming straight up underneath the glutes and keeping that pressure into the wall. You can take it as fast, as slow as you like, but again, we're trying to maintain the form of running, keeping that core tight, maintaining that good position in the pose, and working on that nice, solid transition as we work back and forth. So really focusing on that, taking it as fast or as slow as I say. It's tough, it's a tough exercise, but you can gain a lot in terms of coordination and just building your run technique for when we get outside on the street and work on that run as we get going in that free running position. So play with that. Even if you're choosing to do a run today in the work set, warm up a couple sets with this wall run, get yourself ready to go. All right, so we've just gone through the wall run, a couple different variations for the wall run that we can use in terms of our work set. If you'd like to say, hey, I kind of like that idea of just running in place, we have a couple other options for you that doesn't involve the wall. If you don't have any clear wall space, you can work on high knees and you can work on some butt kicks today. So for the high knee, we're working on getting those knees up nice and high, all right? It's not that we run this way, all right? We don't run with our feet out in front with the high knee per se, but we're gonna work on that to fire up our quads and get a little bit more dynamic in our nature with this work set. So we get ourselves set up and we work on that nice high knee with the arms, working on back and forth with those arms at the same time, trying to keep those knees nice and high, alternating with the arms. The other variation you can play with, and you can do butt kicks a multitude of different ways, but what we're gonna work on today is one of two things. Pulling the heel straight up underneath, or keeping the knee pointing down and pulling that heel up to your glute. So the two different variations, neither is better nor worse, it's just slightly different. So with these work sets, we can work on, again, working on pulling with those opposite hands. We can work on, again, treating it like a run, working with that opposite side, and kicking our butt up and under behind. So one of them, knees point down, one knee points slightly forward, just like we were talking about against the wall. So we have three different variations of that running on the spot if you'd like to play with that. They're great options in terms of getting your cardio going. As you can tell, I'm a little breathing a little heavy, but they also help build some key foundational points of running when we take it outside. Even if you're like, I don't really run a lot, these are nice ways to start because you can take them as slow or as fast as you'd like. So play with them, see how it feels. You can even input them into the practice round to see what you want to do, and they're great warm-ups if you are planning on doing some running in the work set today. Now after that, in our work set, what we have is a half Turkish get-up. We covered a little bit of that work set in our opening kind of practice round with an empty hand, but I'm just going to go through again with the load. So our knee is over our heel, back knee under hip, under shoulder, nice and tall, nice and set and square. If I'm using a load, the dumbbell is going to be in the same hand as the knee that's forward, and this is very important. As I am taking my hand down to the side, I'm always pushing up into that dumbbell to support it and keep it overhead in that good position. So the dumbbell is always going to be pointing to the ceiling. Now something to keep in mind, we're keeping that shoulder position the same position as if we were doing our windmill. The only difference is we're not rotating side to side. We're just taking it straight to the side, but keeping that shoulder in that same position that we worked on in that skill of the windmill and the dynamic triangle. So working on building that through the warm-up into our work set is going to really help groove that position we want to keep and keep that shoulder as stable as we can for the entire work set. So a quick recap on this work set. We have 5 rounds of work. We have a wall run of 90 seconds or a wall run equivalent. Check the workout description down at the bottom. You will have a ton of options for that wall run. So play with it, have some fun with it. When you finish that, you're gonna come back to your mat. You're gonna either go unloaded or loaded, 5 Turkish get-ups or half Turkish get-ups per side, working on that nice control of the dumbbell, slowing things down. These are not meant to be fast, but they're gonna slow things down just a bit before you head back into that cardio piece, and you're gonna hit that for 5 rounds. I hope you guys enjoy this one, you guys. Have some fun with it. It's a little different kind of take on some cardio with some stability, so have fun. Hit the cardio piece hard. Find that nice stability, slow things down with the half Turkish get-up, and see where it takes you. Leading into the weekend, I hope you have fun with this, you guys. As always, work for quality, have tons of fun, and we'll see you tomorrow for another fun little work set. Bye, you guys.